Coming up in the program, we'll catch up with all the news from the opening round in Japan. We'll detail all the differences between the various race categories in the Asian Le Mans Series. We'll look at the history of the F1 circuit in Sepang and find out why drivers love to race here. Plus, of course, we'll bring you extended highlights of round 2 of the 2015-16 Asian Le Mans Series with all the sights and sounds to go with it. So sit back, hold tight and join us for more thrilling Asian Le Mans Series action. Before we get into all of the action from Malaysia, let's take a quick look back at the opening race of the season in Japan. Shinji Nakano and Nicholas Leutwiler took the top honours, winning both the LMP2 category and the overall crown, as the race performance team won by more than a lap. Eurasia Motorsports' number 99 LMP2 entry had battled during the first part of the race, but battery and tyre puncture issues later in the day dropped them down the field. That allowed the GT class pole setters, Clearwater Racing, to cross the line in second overall in their number 3 McLaren 650S GT3 and clinch the GT category. In third and winning the LMP3 class was the number 1 DC Racing Ligier, who impressed in their debut race. Meanwhile, the GTM winners were the KCMG trio of Christian Reed, James Munro and Paul Ip in their Porsche GT3 Cup car, finishing 8th overall. Several other teams showed flashes of promise throughout the 2-hour race, suggesting that Sepang could be even more keenly contested. The beauty of Le Mans racing is that cars race against competitors in their same class and against the field as a whole, leading to many race battles within the bigger and overall racing picture. For the 2015-16 Asian Le Mans Series, there are 5 classes: LMP2, LMP3, CN, GT and GTM. The fastest cars in the grid will be battling all season for the biggest prize of all, entry into the Le Mans 24-hour race in France. Let's find out more. The Le Mans Prototype 2, or commonly known as LMP2, are just one small step below the LMP1 cars at the top of the endurance pyramid. But thanks to capped costs, the category is much more accessible to a wide range of teams. Next comes the Le Mans Prototype 3, or LMP3 category, which series organisers introduced as an entry-level formula to Le Mans type endurance racing, aimed at young, developing and gentleman drivers. Drivers can develop their skills and experience with LMP3 at Continental Championships before moving up to LMP2. The third category in the series is the CN class, another stepping stone along the endurance ladder. Only Group CN cars with a carbon chassis will be eligible to race in the Asian Le Mans Series. The GT class is divided into 2 categories: the GT category, which consists of FIA GT3 cars, and a GTM category, which consists of the various one-make Cup series in the region. For Asian Le Mans Series entrants that compete in all 4 races of the 2015-16 season, invitations to the 2016 Le Mans 24-hour race will be awarded to the first LMP2 car, the first GT team and the first LMP3 car.
Welcome to the second round of the Asia Le Mans Series here in Malaysia. Unlike the last time out in Fuji, the sun is shining and there's smiles all around ahead of this 3-hour endurance race. Lining up on the grid here at the Sepang International Circuit, we've got 3 LMP2 entries with Algarve Pro Racing lining up on pole position. We've got 2 LMP3 entries, 2 CN category cars, and 9 GT cars round out the grid as they prepare to do battle for the next 3 hours here at the Sepang International Circuit. Round 2 of the Asia Le Mans Series got off to a flyer, with Eurasia's Richard Bradley storming into the lead with a move down the inside after starting in third. Pole sitter Michael Moonman looked to have recovered after a poor start to take second place for Algarve Pro Racing, but Shinji Nakano from Race Performance again passed the Swiss driver whose team was making their Asian Le Mans Series debut. Bradley continued his steering pace early on, setting what would ultimately be the fastest lap of the entire race in just the second lap. Meanwhile, the GT cars were battling hard to stay on the coattails of the leading trio, with Clearwater Racing and Absolute Racing both moving up a place from the start. Further down the field, Australian Joshua Hunt in the Nexus Infinity Ferrari was battling with German driver Dick Muller in the number 91 BMW Z4, with Hunt getting the better of the early exchanges against the supposedly higher-rated Muller. Bradley continued to apply pressure from the front, with the Briton showing exactly why he is a former winner at Le Mans as he built up a sizable lead. Nakano remained in second, but Bradley was soon out of sight. In addition to many of the same entries from the previous round in Fuji, the field had swelled to 16 cars, with new entries coming in from Portugal, Canada and Singapore to create a truly international grid. The Portuguese outfit Algarve Pro Racing certainly impressed early on in the weekend, especially when Jamie Winslow took pole in qualifying by nearly a full second, and teammate Moonman was going well in the team's first stint, locking up his brakes at car number 89, pushing hard as he works his way up the field. Meanwhile, car number 1, the LMP3 entry of DC Racing with David Cheng behind the wheel, makes his way past the Ferrari right here. David Cheng is locked in an intense battle in the midfield with a lot of cars around him and is trying to find his way past the GT car. And just as David Cheng manages to pull out and find a way past, Eurasia Motorsports car number 99 has different plans for the track space around him and goes ahead of David Cheng. Meanwhile, the Swiss-based Race Performance team had taken the overall win in Fuji and was already passing some of the backmarkers comfortably. And at this stage of the race, it was already facing a significant deficit in trying to catch the lead car number 99. No such problems for car number 3, Clearwater Racing. Their McLaren was on pace all throughout the 3 hours. But disaster struck early for Ollie Hancock and Team AAI, with a major problem forcing them into the pits.
It's devastating. The starter motor appears to have seized. It's been not playing ball very well all weekend, and then it gets hot, obviously over an hour's running. That is the longest running this car has ever done over this side of the world in Asia with AAI Motorsport. So yeah, the boys are trying to fix it and we'll try and get back on track.
Take my hand and I'll be your guide. I'll take you places that you'd never find. I know something about a state of mind. The dreamer lives in you and me.
Back to the action, and Singapore driver Dennis Lian had taken the first stint for Avalon Formula, one of 2 CN prototypes joining the series in Malaysia. The team chose to run with 2 drivers, not 3, but regulations dictate that each team has to pit at least twice during the race so as to not gain any unfair advantage.
Car's going well. Tire wear is a bit more than expected because I did a 1.5 hour stint, which put a lot of load on the rear tire, so it started sliding around at the end. So you got to really have your concentration with you in the last 20 minutes or so, because you're getting tired, the car is getting tired, the tires are really getting tired, so keeping it on the black stuff is not easy.
Let's take a ride now with Shinji Nakano in the number 8 Race Performance car in a section that perfectly illustrates the beauty of a mixed grid, one of the hallmarks of endurance racing. Nakano is a veteran of 33 Formula 1 Grand Prix races, but that's not to say he has everything his own way here. With cars competing in 5 different classes across the 16-car field, each car in the race has its own strengths and weaknesses. Nakano's LMP2 car is amongst the most powerful in the field, but ahead of him is DC Racing's LMP3 machine, just a small step down on the endurance racing pyramid. With the Japanese driver lapping around 5 or 6 seconds quicker than David Cheng ahead of him, he does eventually pass him on the straight, but the cars across different categories regularly battle for positions against each other. As Shinji Nakano continues to slice his way through the midfield, David Cheng in the LMP3 car watches from afar and gets inspiration himself as he makes a pass on the number 3 car of Clearwater Racing to continue making his way around the Sepang circuit. At the front, Bradley handed over to William Locke, but 3 spins on a difficult second lap saw Eurasia drop to second place. That put race performance in the lead after 25 laps in the books, with Nakano's experience and consistency allowing him to pull away from Locke, who was racing in an LMP2 car for just the second time in his career, round 1 in Fuji being the first. Absolute Racing's Jeffrey Lee had handed over to young Belgian driver Alessio Picarello, who had barely raced in any format over the past 2 years, but had been hugely impressive after relocating to Asia for the autumn, winning several rounds of the Formula Masters China Series and taking like a duck to water behind the wheel of an Audi R8 as well. Picarello's pace soon ranked him in the top half of the field, faster than many other far more experienced drivers, and posting his fastest time of 2 minutes 8.3 seconds just 7 laps into his team's middle stint. There was more trouble in the LMP3 class, though this time with DC Racing returning to the garage.
Finished my first stint and Thomas got in the car, did a few laps, and it looks like we lost the drive shaft. So the mechanics, luckily Thomas was able to bring the car back in. Also, we have the support of Von Roque, so we're working forward and we just want to get this car back out and keep in the fight.
With Spirit of Racers Portuguese driver Rui Aguas putting in a mammoth 65 laps over the course of the afternoon, it was the Portuguese team, Algarve Pro Racing, that was making solid progress in second, with Dean Kotsumidis here chasing down Dominic Ang in the Nexus Infinity Ferrari. Kotsumidis has taken part in several editions of the well-known Bathurst 12-hour race in his native Australia and has a wealth of experience in endurance racing. On board now with car number 21 Avalon Formula as they are passed by car number 99 Eurasia Motorsports. Back in the Audi R8, 22-year-old Picarello, who won the Germany-based ADAC Formel Masters Championship in 2013, was chasing down one of his 7 rivals in the GT class, showing maturity beyond his years and having benefited hugely from living with the Shanghai-based Absolute Racing team for several months. With the midpoint of the race fast approaching, the other CN entry, car number 69, Atlantic Racing Team from Canada, was making its way through the field.
All of the circuits on the 2015-2016 Asia Le Mans Series are special in their own way, but Sepang is a particular favourite of many drivers and teams. The pressing heat makes an endurance race that much more challenging, and the significance of it being an F1 track is no breeze to begin with. Let's take a closer look at Malaysia's unique racing mecca.
Sepang is definitely one of the motorsports hub in Asia, and in particular in Southeast Asia.
We saw that the ACO is going to put, let's say, more power behind the organization and everything that is needed to make it a success.
The track actually started back in 1999. It's almost been 17 years now. I would consider this is a technical track with 2 of the main streets. The width of the track is about 22 to 25 meters, which allows competitive overtaking. We have different gradients in terms of the track level. I think that makes the whole thing more competitive. That's why we call it, it's quite a technical track.
Well, what I like about Sepang is the fact that it's got a little bit of everything, especially suited to these LMP2 cars. It's got the high-speed downforce corners, which it really likes, but you also have to be patient and technical on the low-speed corners as well.
Very demanding physically, especially when you drive a CN car or any high downforce vehicle. And it's very, very hard on cars as well. Brakes, because of the ambient temperature, it puts a hell of a toll on race cars as well as the drivers. In this circuit, with the Gs, with the temperature, in a car like this, it's tough. The
PC and especially like for the McLaren. The McLaren is the carbon monocoque. It will be after 2-hour race, then the temperature will keep inside. It's like the sauna, the steam. So it's really, really very hard job for the driver.
Comparing to Fuji, where we started this season a month ago, where it was very cold and we had temperatures down to 10, 15 degrees, the very high temperatures in Sepang require a high consistency of the fuel. The performance has to be consistent even in high temperatures like here.
Michelin is always very attracted by a series where we can play with both prototype and GT cars at the same time. In Asia, you can go from Shanghai beginning of the year to Sepang any time of the year with a large spectrum of temperature. And we don't want to oblige the team to have to redo all the testing. So we come with a reference tire which is able to absorb, let's say, this gradient of temperature.
It's special for me because it's a F1 circuit and this one is really big with long straights. They're more like a smaller circuit.
It's a very interesting track, a nice track. It's very hot, but it's palms, very modern. I like this track.
Back on track, and the 3-hour marathon entered the business end of proceedings. Race performance was solidifying its grip on the standings. Having led since lap 25, the duo of Shinji Nakano and Nick Ludweiler were keen for their second straight win. The nearest challenger was Algarve Pro Racing, who had moved past Eurasia into second spot, but was still some way off the lead. Nexus Infinity and Team AAI were having a good battle in the midfield, with this side view from the back of the Nexus Ferrari as it passes the BMW down the Sepang home straight. At this point, Malaysian Dominic Ang was behind the wheel on his home track, but he would later hand back to his teammate Joshua Hunt. One of the best battles was in the CN class, with Atlantic Racing Team here trying to catch their rivals from Formula Avalon. Clearwater Racing's McLaren, ahead on track here, was again leading the GT division and running 4th overall, even if it was several laps down on the leaders from the LMP2 category. Experienced driver Kita Sawa had driven the opening 29 laps after the team had started from pole position in its class. Sawa then handed over to Singaporean Mok Weng San, but with talented McLaren factory driver Rob Bell down to drive the final stint, the team knew it was sitting in pretty good shape.
It's really hot out there. It's so hot, struggling to keep the body and the head cool. But my main strategy was I got the car in the lead, so I want to drive a consistent pace and deliver the car back in the lead, which is what I did. So hopefully we've got Rob Bell, our quickest driver in the car right now, and hopefully he can bring it home.
Over in the Audi R8, Alessio Piccarello handed over to Korean driver Andrew Kim after completing 32 laps. All three teammates, Piccarello, Kim and Jeffrey Lee, had raced in Audi's one-make series in Shanghai just 1 week previously, so familiarity with the car wasn't an issue, even if the heat was. Undoubtedly, the best debut performance in the field came from the Algarve Pro Racing trio of Michael Moonman, Dean Koutsmidis and Jamie Winslow, with a steady performance from all three seeing the Ligier cruise around in second place. However, perhaps the overall performance of the day came from the number 91 BMW, which had started at the rear of the grid due to a penalty from qualifying. But Dirk Muller made a great start, jumping 10 places in the first 15 minutes of the race. The DC Racing Ligier had spent nearly 30 minutes in the pits to repair a problem with their half shaft, but still managed to rejoin 3 laps ahead of their rivals in class, Team AAI, who had even bigger problems of their own. Here we see the lead LMP3 car come up against the leader of the GT class, car number 3, but the more superior braking power of the LMP3 machine allows it to brake that much later going into turn 9 and take the track position. Meanwhile, all 3 of Team AAI's GT cars did very well and would go on to finish in the top 6 of the highly competitive GT category. Into the final 30 minutes here at the Sepang International Circuit, and the podium positions were beginning to settle, with Clearwater Racing looking good in the GT category. Algarve Pro Racing was holding firm in second overall, but still struggling to get closer to race leader Nick Leutwiler. Meanwhile, in the LMP3 class, DC Racing were leading the class as they come up against car number 89, their category rival Team AAI, in the Ades 03 chassis. These cars are evenly matched, and even though being a couple of laps down, the car number 89 was not making it any easier for DC Racing to get past as they power their way down the Sepang back straight. Staying on pace and leading the GTM category was car number 51 KCMG from Hong Kong. We ride on board now with car number 1 DC Racing, and ahead of him it's car number 38 Spirit of Race from Switzerland. The LMP3 car comes up closer to the GT car and manages to get past on the inside of the corner, going down the back straight. Riding on board with leader car number 8 Race Performance with Nicky Leutwiler at the wheel. Even at the closing stages of the race, the drivers have to keep their concentration. In this one section of racing, we have 3 categories fighting for track position. The LMP2 car manages to pass the CN category car of 21 Avalon Racing, and then Nicky needs to settle the Oreca chassis and position himself to attack car number 90 Team AAI Mercedes AMG. The LMP2 car has so much more grip compared to the GT car and manages to pass around the outside on the penultimate corner here at the Sepang circuit. It's into the pits for the race leader. There'll be no change of driver this time around as he comes in for a quick splash and dash ahead of the final stint. Nick Leutwiler remains in the car. It's a bit of a stuttery start, but nonetheless he gets his LMP2 machine back out on track. Elsewhere, Spirit of Race, the Swiss-based team with a Singaporean-Portuguese duo behind the wheel, was sitting 4th in the GT division, looking to find a way onto the podium. Rui Aguas did the bulk of the driving for the team as they looked ahead, but rivals Nexus Infinity were just a little further behind, ready to capitalize on any mistakes. In the end, the pair had to settle for 4th, 7th overall, unable to repeat their podium finish from Fuji when their Ferrari crossed 4th overall and 2nd in the GT class. The battle continues in the closing stages of the race between the CN category cars and the GT cars. We have car number 21 Avalon Formula being passed by car number 91 cleanly into the first turn. And there's a huge lockup there. Right ahead of race leader Nick Leutwiler has to negotiate on the very closing stages of this race a safe passage to the checkered flag, and he does just that. He comes across the line to take victory and wins the 3 hours of Sepang here in Malaysia. It's a second race win of the season for the race performance duo of Nicholas Leutwiler and Shinji Nakano. And here's confirmation of the race results. Race Performance take victory ahead of Algarve Pro Racing, and Eurasia Motorsports end up in 3rd place. Clearwater Racing win the GT category ahead of cars number 91 and 90. Spirit of the Race end up in 7th place ahead of Nexus Infinity, who finish 8th. Winning the CN category is Avalon Formula, cars number 21. KCMG win the GTM category, while DC Racing take victory in the LMP3 class. Here's confirmation of the standings after 2 rounds. Race Performance lead the LMP2 class, DC Racing lead the LMP3 class, and Avalon Formula lead the CN category. Clearwater Racing are on top in the GT category, and KCMG lead the GTM class.
We have been pushed and we had to, avoid any mistake. So very happy for both and the team. And obviously thanks to the team, to Michel, Frey, team owner, who couldn't be here today. So Michel, thanks very much in the name of everybody.
We had some issues in the middle of the race with a drive shaft failure, but the team did an amazing job to replace it. At the end, lapping very quickly to regain back the lead and basically bring it home in the last few laps.
I had a great partner. Giorgio really took the car, drove it really, really well, and we crossed the line for that much sought after victory after one whole year of trying for last year. Okay.
We knew it was going to be tough actually with the heat, the sort of threat of rain as well, which actually started to rain on my in-lap, so it was actually a really hard battle.
And that wraps up another fantastic race weekend. We'll see you in Buriram, Thailand in January for the next round of the Asian Le Mans Series.